I'm saving opening my beer because there's a distinct possibility that it's going to spray everywhere, and I think that'd be kind of funny to catch on camera.
Yeah, that would be good. Hold on, I'll get my.
What's going on?
Yo.
The gang's all here.
I was just telling Justin that I'm saving my beer to open with you all because I have some Oxbow, which is it's good stuff. But repeatedly, the can has exploded. No matter what you do, like if you tap on it, let it sit for a while, no matter what happens, like there's still some fermenting going on the inside.
Well, I'm not
when you
waiting.
open it, it sprays everywhere. So I think that'd be pretty funny to get on camera, but it might really mess up.
My hair looks extra ridiculous today for some reason.
So, cheers.
Cheers. I decided I'm not waiting.
I'm good.
So I'm out in lovely Colorado right now.
Where are you? Illinois?
I'm in Fairplay, which is about 25 miles south of Breckenridge.
Cool.
You just wanted to go to Colorado?
Yeah, well, A, it was such a long break. I was like,
yeah,
I need to get out. B, I also eventually want to spend my summers entirely out west, possibly Colorado, but somewhere out west. But I also wanted to see if I would want to spend my winters out there too. So this is sort of a
test run.
Nice.
I'm also in like highly performative interview mode right now too.
Interview?
Yeah, because of that crazy podcast. All right. So I feel like we need to tell everybody about this because it's just like, this is so 2020. I can't even begin to tell you.
Wait, I thought you were
because I'm going to be on 2020.
You're going to be on 2020.
I'm going to be on 2020. Maybe, I don't know. My story might get cut. The interview's
got to get on before the end of 2020.
All right, so let me take it from the beginning because this is a story for y'all. Okay.
Have we started the episode?
We'll cut it right. I'll do it. I'll do something somewhere. But yeah.
The price of improvement is failure. Welcome to Liquid Philosophy.
Hey y'all, it's Liquid Philosophy. We're here for a year-end episode because you know what? It's 2020, and 2020 has been a year. So I'm Marianne LaGreco. We got Justin Harmon. We got Jeremy Rinker. And you'll notice we don't have a guest on this episode because we thought, you know what? This year has been so unique and interesting. We should end it off with just the three of us, kind of recapping some of the things that we thought were interesting, fascinating, problematic, tragic, awesome, and really just weird about 2020.
This is going to be a long show, in other words.
It might be.
It has been a weird year.
It has been a weird year. So, are we going to kick it off with a toast, or should I just tell my wacky podcast story?
I think we should do a toast, but I don't know.
Who's got a toast? Who's got a toast? You don't have one? We're not prepared.
We're not.
We just all hated in grades yesterday.
I mean, I was thinking before we started, have beers will travel.
Have beers will travel. Cheers to 2020.
Yes.
Wee.
Awesome.
All right. So I'm going to kick things off by telling you my really, really, really weird podcast story that's going on right now because I've been spending lots of my 2020 on podcasts. I've been on like 4 or 5 different podcasts. So I've been cheating on y'all. I know, right? I'm terrible. But the most interesting recent development has been, I was recently interviewed for this podcast called Chameleon, the Hollywood Con Queen. And it's a top 5 Apple podcast. It is hosted by this guy named Josh Dean, and he's with Campfire Media. I think it's Campside Media. And they've been following the story of this person who has been impersonating high-profile Hollywood film executives like Kathleen Kennedy, the producer of Star Wars, Amy Pascal, Deb Snyder, the producer of the Wonder Woman movies, like really high-profile people. And they've been convincing like lower-level film workers, so people who are like personal trainers on action movies and costume folks and makeup artists and things like that to travel all over the world, usually to Indonesia, and to get there for film projects that when they arrive don't exist. And so they've been fleeced out of a bunch of money that they've had to front for themselves. And they get there and then there's no film. And so it's been this really strange con because they're not getting conned out of a lot of money. And in some cases, it's things like they're paying for their own airfare and airfare change fees and then not getting that money reimbursed. And so in terms of like a money-making scheme, it's not necessarily a huge money-making scheme per se. And so I get this phone call. Actually, I get an email that was followed up with a phone call from Josh Dean. And he's like, I want to ask you about somebody who you went to college with. And I'm like, what's going on here? And so they realize all of a sudden that this Hollywood con queen is not a woman. It's in fact a man. And it's this guy named Harvey Tahil Rahmani, who I went to college with for one semester. He went to Bradley for one semester. He came to join the speech team spring semester of my senior year and was kind of a creepy guy. I'm not going to lie. There were some suspicious things about him. I'm not going to get into the details here because there's a podcast, there's a book, and there's going to be a 2020 episode. So you can hear even more about this. And the thing is that in 2000, he plagiarized a speech of mine and it became like kind of a bit of a scandal on the speech circuit for a minute. And we caught him. He got disqualified in dramatic fashion. And the next thing we know, he's doing things like sending in bomb threats to the Pentagon. And then fast forward 10 more years, and he's impersonating high-profile Hollywood film execs. And so they just arrested him in Manchester amidst all of this podcast investigation. And so the episode that I am on just was released on December 3rd. And I've been getting lots of calls from people who've been listening to this, and they're like, I've been listening to this podcast and all of a sudden I found out it was Harvey and the next thing I know you're getting interviewed. And so it's been kind of wild. And then on top of it, I got an email from a guy who's writing a book. Scott Johnson is his name. He's the one who broke the story originally about the con queen and then just wrote the story about when Harvey got arrested for the Hollywood Reporter. And so he's writing a book. And then the one that really just blows my mind is that I got contacted by 2020 and they're going to be doing a long form story likely in February on him. And so that interview is tomorrow. That's just the pre-interview. And then they'll decide whether or not they want to do a video interview with me for.
Yeah. So how did they know you went to college with them?
So because of speech, because I did college speech, Harvey got to a national quarterfinal in persuasion at the National Forensics Association tournament in 2000. There were two other people from Bradley who ended up in persuasion quarterfinals, and that was myself and Vance Pierce. Somewhere while they were doing all of the investigations, as soon as they found out that he's had several assumed names, like they were actually calling him Gobind Tahil Rahmani. His full name is Hargobind Tahil Rahmani. And so he was going by Harvey when he was at Bradley, but he's been going by Gobind, he's gone by Gavin, he's gone by a lot of different names. And so when they figured out that one of his names was Harvey Tahil Rahmani and they started looking that up, there's a lot of speech records out there. So it's not hard to find stuff when you start Googling that way. And so they found this old nationals results that had Harvey's name on it and it had Bradley University. And so then they looked up his other two teammates and I was one of them. And it just so happened coincidentally that he also plagiarized me. And so it was like, I was podcast pot of gold for them because they, they called me up thinking that they were going to get some backstory on, what was Harvey like as your teammate? Because, you both got to persuasion quarterfinals. And I was like, well, he wasn't at Bradley very long. He was only there for the semester. I was like, the more interesting thing was after that, he transferred to another team and stole my speech. Yeah. Wow. So that's been my interesting tail end of 2020. What was that?
Was he dressing up?
It was all over the phone. He was not like personally impersonating them. It was all over the phone. So it was all voice impersonation.
Wow.
Yep.
That is wild, and it worked. I mean,
And it worked. It worked.
How many
Well,
people
and I
in-
think because some of it was he was trying to exploit people who were kind of like they still had dreams of making it big in Hollywood. And so I think, the moment all of a sudden you think Kathleen Kennedy is calling you to say, hey, I want you to be a personal trainer on this new action movie that I'm getting ready to produce. You're like, here's my big break, like you think this is the moment. And so you kind of get so wrapped up in it that some of your critical thinking skills, I think, start to shut down. So, yeah.
That is pretty crazy.
that is. And here I thought I was like going nuts with COVID, and then my stories don't even compare to that.
Oh my gosh. Did I just have the climax of the episode in the first 5 minutes?
We're so excited. It's kind of like me with neoliberalism. Gotta get in there.
So what's been going on with you all lately?
Well, my funny story that happened recently is like not anywhere near as exciting as yours. But I was pumping gas at the Costco the other day. I actually went out shopping a little bit a couple days ago, which was a little scary. But I was pumping gas after I did all that, and this guy pulls up behind me, and he hops out, and the first thing he says is, "I don't mean to be nosy, but." And when anybody says that to me, I'm like, all right, I don't really want to hear anything else you have to say. Like, I could just get back in my car and we could just leave it there, right? But then, of course, he says you still have an 8/20/20 sticker on your car, my license plate. He'd been sitting behind me the whole time in line, at Costco. So I'm sure he saw it in the, and I was just like, somebody stole my sticker. I literally was like, I remember getting my car inspected. And so it's like for 4 months, I've been driving around with like expired registration. Luckily, I never got a ticket. So I guess I can count myself lucky for that. But
didn't the Greenville City Council say that you can't pull people over for expired tags or busted taillights anymore?
Is that
I believe that is one change. I think the busted taillights for sure was one, but I can't remember about the expired tags.
I didn't hear that, but maybe I'm a beneficiary of
Because
that.
it's so oftentimes associated with like black drivers that they like. I'm pretty sure that's
why they were pulled over.
I didn't know that, but I literally like didn't know I was driving around. I said to myself, like, I drove up to DC once with like in October. So from August on, or September 1 on, I was driving around with expired tags and didn't even know it. What's that?
I said, you're an outlaw.
Yeah, exactly. I broke the law.
All right, Justin. What's your
COVID
sure
law?
I have
your tail end of 2020 opening story?
Well, that's actually funny that you say tail end, but I'll tell this story. I might think of a better one, but this one just happened yesterday and it's very short. But I went snowboarding for the first time in 19 years yesterday.
Wow.
And you're still alive.
Usually I'm a
Colorado guy here.
Right. Usually I'm a skier. It didn't go very well yesterday. Every part of me is sore, and I'm going back tomorrow. But on my I was falling left and right, and on my last run of the day yesterday, I took a pretty big fall, on my backside, and somehow, like the angle I came down, that like the ground kind of caught my left butt cheek and kind of pulled it apart so that my asshole pounded on the ground and pain shot up through my entire body.
Oh my God.
And I thought I was going to shit myself. And so I had to sit there for a minute to make sure that I didn't. And then I decided that was the end of the day.
Wow. So.
All right, that one caught me a little.
Laughing because I thought that was the end of the day. It's like, what? That's gonna.
You're like, I had to sit there for a minute.
I had to. I wasn't sure.
If my ass hit the snow and I felt like I was going to shit myself, then yeah, I think that would be a good sign that, you know what, day's over.
I mean, if I'd fallen just on my butt cheeks, it would have been fine. But somehow one of them got parted so that went right on
I
the
think
ground.
I think we got the impression. All right.
Too much of an impression. Oh, God. Wow. Here's to
Hello,
2020.
listeners. Cheers to our listeners. I hope you enjoyed that one.
Yeah. Cheers to 2020.
Maybe they'll invite me on-
Those
maybe they'll
I
invite
would
me
think
on-
of. Those I was thinking of as kind of lost 2020 stories. In other words, once you tell them, they're done.
They're done. All right. So since our last episode, some things have changed. Because last time we were just doing our pre-election episode special with Roy Schwartzman. And so now we have a new president-elect. I'm excited.
The other one hasn't committed to leaving yet, though.
He hasn't committed to leaving yet. So I'm not like getting way super excited yet because I'm only going to get excited the day that it happens.
Right.
Yes, I know.
Uh-huh.
Sorry. My lighting was kind of bugging me. Let's see if that's
gotcha.
Is that better?
I feel like it's the same. It might not be. Like when I go back to the post-production on this, it might be like, ooh, yeah, well done, Jeremy. But
It's not going to be the
now-
same for me. My experience is completely different now.
Gotcha.
Just less
So
bright.
are we optimistic now? Is that what you're leading us into, Marianne?
No, I think I'm kind of going retrospective on some past episodes, and I was just thinking about how we should make a comment on the fact that times they are a changing, and hopefully in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, his
Yeah.
appointments too have been good,
Mhm.
mostly.
They've been
He's
interesting.
pretty LBJ in terms of his progressiveness in terms of appointments.
Yeah, except for, like today I heard he appointed Vilsack for agricultural secretary, which is not like that's not defense secretary, which also he appointed a general, 4-star general. Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, civilian, like that might have been a good thing. And Vilsack was Obama's agricultural guy for 8 years. It's like, that's not diversity. Give it to somebody else.
Although I'm not mad at it because those were some of our most well-funded years in terms of,
That's the problem with this.
ooh, look at that. Some of
That's
our
the
most
problem with this.
well-funded years in terms of research around community-based food programming.
Mm.
Yep.
Do tell us more, because maybe
So we had during those years, we really saw the rise of the USDA had the community-based food program, the farmers market promotion program, the let's see. I'm gonna have to remember all of the acronyms, and we got several of
No,
them.
I mean,
outline
I-
many of them in my upcoming book, Everybody Eats.
I mean,
But
in some ways, those guys who've been in there for so long, it's like
Yeah.
they have good experience. So he might have done really good things. I
Yeah.
don't really know his record. When I heard that, my
yeah,
thought was kind of like, come on, like you had this guy for 8 years. Okay, great. And maybe
let's
he
get
was
somebody
good.
else in there who
But
might
like,
be-
there's
yeah.
probably a lot of other competent people who can do that job too.
I don't disagree with you in that sense in terms of we need to give multiple people turns and opportunities to do things.
That's right.
Yeah. Although again, I'm excited at how well funded or at least how maybe it was a combination of also how successful we were in terms of getting some of those grants, because we used that we launched a couple of urban farms, the Mobile Oasis Farmers Market, the Kitchen Connects food incubator. Like there's a lot of things that got launched that I talk about in my book that we did through USDA funding. So
Is the book out?
not yet. It's like June. It's gonna be a minute. Yeah, it's available for pre-order on Amazon. See, I told you I'm all primed for like interview presentation mode. I'm like, hey, let's promote.
Oh, see, I don't do any of that, but I will say.
I know. I
There
saw
it
that.
is.
That's
It's
exciting,
out.
right?
Where's
We now
the
get to
squirrel?
see the leaf. We get to see the leaf.
Yeah, that was the picture I was talking about. That's Chuck Edgerton took that picture, and we wrapped it all the way around the back of the book too. Which, anyway,
Do you want to tell us about the interesting discussions you're having with your co-author?
yeah, you've been privy to some of that, I guess. So I don't know. No, I don't really want to. I mean, ironically, on another note, which I haven't said to Justin, like I have a friend from high school who I used to debate during the Reagan years, because we were in high school during the Reagan years, and we used to debate, about Ronald Reagan, and on the phone, but on the corded phone, like in the kitchen on the corded phone. I'd be like arguing with him about what the hell is this? This guy's a crazy, like he's a neoliberal fascist, like that kind of thing. And my friend Matt, he's a high school friend of mine. He tells me the other day, this guy used to teach social studies. He now works as an administrator in the schools in Maryland. He lives in Maryland. And he says, yeah, I didn't even vote. I was like, what? Like, you didn't vote? Like, did your freaking social studies teacher, an social studies teacher, and he was like, no, I know, it's the first time I've never voted. And this is a guy who voted for Clinton, who voted for Obama, who probably voted for Bush. I think Bush and Obama. I don't even remember like all the people he's voted for, because he's gone back and forth much more than I have, And I was just like, I was shocked, to be honest, that like, you didn't vote, like you didn't exercise the franchise. Like, come on.
I'm still stuck on the fact that you actually cared about politics in high school.
Really? Yeah, I was a nerd.
That part doesn't surprise
I mean,
me.
I grew up in DC too. So like that news was, the national news was basically the local news.
Yeah, you got folded into your.
The car driving across campus or across town, the president would stop traffic or something and be like, oh, the president went by today, Okay.
To the point where you were probably like, yeah, the president went by. Like it was like nothing anymore.
Yeah, to some extent. But it also got me interested in it. So yeah, I followed. I knew a lot of those characters, like the Mitch McConnells of the world back in the day, Tip O'Neills, and like I grew up on that.
Yeah, not me. The things I was doing in high school were far away from that.
But yeah, in high school, I mean, I was frustrated with Reagan. There was a lot of resistance to Reagan too, like in the 80s, especially the late part of his term, because he was a nutcase and already probably going senile.
Yeah.
And then I just remember like the 4th of July celebration. You would have liked it, Justin. The 4th of July every year, they would have, fireworks on the mall, but they would have different bands and stuff and different stages around the mall. And we would ride bikes down, and I wasn't that far that I could. It was a bit of a bike ride, but I wasn't that far that I couldn't ride down to the mall and hang out. And they had like so one of the stages was Rock Against Reagan, which became Rock Against Racism, I think, after Reagan left. but initially it was Rock Against Reagan.
Yay, America! All right, so cheers to hopefully new things in 2021, particularly around our political climate.
Amen.
All right.
What else do we need to recap from this last year? I mean, we can definitely get into all of the COVID nonsense.
Yeah, I know. We haven't really talked COVID, but all of this relates to COVID, right?
Yeah, right. And so we have finished our semester now.
I got my course evals today.
Hey, I got my course evals today too. I got the highest course evals I've ever received for my community and communication class, which is also the class where I typically get my highest course evaluations. So like I got my best course evals I've ever gotten ever.
That's awesome.
For this semester. And I think it's because I did podcasts. They ate it up. They loved it. They absolutely loved it. And that made a difference, particularly the driving around Greensboro with MLG. So,
that was undergrads.
Yep.
Yeah. I taught only graduate students this semester, so needless to say, my reviews weren't as good. but I mean, at the same time, I was going to ask about response rate, because like I didn't get very good response rate on either one.
Oh, I never get great response rates. Like never ever.
But like
50%
around like 50
or 60%. And
I taught 2 classes. Grad class only had 6 in it and 5 replied. Wow. And then my undergrad class had 30 in it and 28 replied.
Nice.
That's
awesome. And one of them had effectively dropped out of the class somewhere along the way. So really only one person didn't fill it out.
So mine, I had 20 in one class and 10 responded, so 50%. And then in the other class was very small class, 6, and I only had like two or three, two, I think it was 2 or 3. I can't remember, and like I think it was 3, and like 2 were good and 1 was negative. And it was like, okay, that doesn't really tell me much,
Right.
Do you ever feel after like a semester, and maybe it's just a single class every once in a while, that you're like, I don't know how well that went, I need to like redo that class? Have you ever had that feeling?
Oh, after
like,
the other class I taught this semester, my graduate class for organizational communication, which went fine. It was brand new for me. And like my evaluations aren't terrible, but they're fine and even slightly above fine for me. And but the moment I got done, I was like, I would have taught this class completely differently. Like if I would go back, I know everything I would have done differently right now.
Like the last 3 or 4 semesters, I've taught this recreation management class every semester since I've been at UNCG, and I taught it before Texas A&M. But for every semester, for the last 3 or 4 semesters, at the end of it, I'm like, I don't know if that went very well. I don't know if the students are getting it. But then every time I get the evaluations and they're overwhelmingly like positive. They're like, oh, I learned something about this. I became a better writer. And like, it was the same time this semester. And, I taught in person. I didn't teach online, but like, I did have some students that were online, and I was like, and I knew that like, they were kind of like, griping about it, but I think it was because of the situation in general. But like, even the students online and the students in my class that filled it out, except for I had one bad comment, and then literally everybody else.
There's always that one bad one.
Yeah, everybody else put like a comment. I literally probably had every person put something, wrote in something, and they were like all like glowing, and I'm like, I don't understand, because like I didn't necessarily feel that throughout the semester at all times.
That tells you how this age group of people responds differently too. I mean, I did faculty phone-a-thon the other day, and which I like dumbly said that I would do, but anyway, that's another story. I mean, I agreed to do it, and I just it's you call prospective students, like pretty good.
I get it one. Yeah.
And it was funny because the thing they sent out, they said, be sure if you have to leave a message to say UNC Greensboro, not UNCG, because most of these people aren't listening to your message. They're seeing it as a text. They're going to read your message, and it's like, oh, good point. Like I wouldn't have even thought of that, honestly.
Wait, time out. So when you call somebody, they can have it converted an audio file to a text?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, my phone does that too. I mean, oftentimes it's not very good. It misses things because it's AI technology that doesn't.
My phone is 4.5 years old, so it doesn't.
There you go.
There are different functionalities you may even be able to turn on yours. I have all of mine turned off. I don't do it for any of mine just because I'm like, I don't know how much I want all of the things to have access to all of my stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just actually stopped the text message of campus alerts.
No, really?
Because I get them to email too. So why do I need them to both?
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been teaching in a classroom?
I was just going to bring up
if you remember those days before COVID, when we actually were in classrooms and taught, I was in class one day and had a PowerPoint up, and it was like there was like a Cleary Act message that came out, and it was like, it came up on the screen like warning, and I'm like, and then I turned it off and it came back again. It's like it came back like 3 times. The class just started laughing at one point.
Yeah, I had something like that when I was at Texas A&M as a doc student teaching, and they had a lockdown because there was a gunman on campus, and they're like, and it ended up being like 2 like freshmen playing like with Nerf guns or something like that. And you had to lock down.
That's why at UNCG they put up those signs that basically say,
like
there's gonna be a Nerf war here later.
Right, we get the email saying that Zombies versus Humans is about to start, and we should all get ready.
Yeah, it's funny.
I don't know what else happened in 2020 that I'm forgetting.
Well,
COVID is going to happen.
Have any of you had a COVID test?
I have one.
How'd it go?
not fun to have that
I
thing
think
shoved
so, but
up your nose. But I mean, I got negative. Obviously, I didn't have it. I don't think I've had COVID because I
how
haven't.
fast was the turnaround?
At you, are you talking about at UNCG?
No. How fast was the turnaround of the
Oh, for the test.
result?
3 days, I think. Yeah, so it's pretty quick. I think they're quicker now, but I don't know. I want to say maybe 2 days at
Days,
least.
You did it on campus?
Yeah, I did. I just went to the EUC. I went to one of those ones they've been announcing. I keep
I
getting
tried to do that. I signed up for one of the first ones, like you can get your time slot, and I show up there and they're like, you need your insurance card. I'm like, you didn't tell me I needed to bring that. And then they're like, well, you need to like get that in all this stuff. And I was like, I've got class in 15 minutes, like you told me out of 15 minutes. It
You
wasn't
told
very
me this
well.
is gonna be a rapid test, and now, yeah.
Ain't that rapid? Yeah, that's funny. I think I did have I think they did ask for my insurance card, but then they just like took a picture of it or something and were like, yeah, you're good, and it was pretty straight. I was in and out of there in 10 or 15 minutes. It didn't take long. Yeah, I've been getting. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just MLG. Did you get one?
I've not had one yet. Nope. I have not. We'll see what happens, but
Are you gonna get the vaccine?
probably.
Yeah.
I've invested in it. I invested in the Dolly Parton one
Oh,
because it's a Dolly.
why?
Yeah, tell us.
Wait,
that.
how did you invest in that one?
I use an app called Stash, and so basically once a month, like $10 goes into this app, and then I can use it to invest in a variety of different things. So it's like, like E-Trade and day trading kind of stuff. And
But it's
so,
just
yeah.
all philanthropy.
What was that?
Oh wait, this is an investment or it's a philanthropy?
No, it's actually an investment. Like Dolly Parton has been a part of the Moderna, like investing in the Moderna vaccine. Yeah, and so I've invested in the Moderna vaccine.
So how much is it going up?
It's doing all right. That and Apple, those are the two things I've invested in. So
Apple won't do bad, except for the recent, attempts to try to break up Facebook here now.
right, I saw that.
Yeah, that's gonna be
All
interesting.
that needs to happen. All of that.
It does. It does. All of it needs to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish we would eradicate all social media.
Good luck.
My life would not change at all because I'm not on it.
No, because you're not on any of it, right?
You're such a Luddite.
Proud of it.
Or who knows? Maybe he's actually super progressive on a different scale.
That's right. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm ahead of the curve. Maybe I'm just ready for the apocalypse to come.
Right. You have a bunch
Well,
of canned foods and other sort of non-perishables all stored up, don't you?
I'm already up in the hills, buried in the bunkers.
You're doing
You got your snowboard there so you can just slip out if you need to.
Yep, got it all. I've been snowshoeing a lot too. That's been nice.
I've done that before. It was not fun for me.
It's a lot of work.
It's work. Yeah. And not, the kind that my body's very good at because of, I think I've told you guys this before, that I was in a gymnastics accident when I was 9.
I don't know that I've ever heard
Yes,
that.
I was in a gymnastics accident when I was 9, and it messed up many things with my hips, my knees, my back, and I have.
Was this parallel bars?
Yeah.
No, it was floor tumbling sorts of things. We were doing dive rolls, which is somebody lays down on the ground, and then you jump up over them, and then basically go into a somersault.
Right.
And so we were doing it where one person lay down, and then we had 2 people lay down. We had 3 people lay down. And when the third person was laying down,
Knievel trying to jump over people?
Yeah. We had to jump over, so you had to jump over 3 people into a somersault.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
And so when we were on 3 people, basically, long story short, I was going behind the sweaty kid in class. And so he went, and then I went. And when my hands hit the mat, they slipped out from underneath me. And so I went headfirst into the mat. I definitely blacked out because I know I woke up to Dino Rogopoulos saying, guys, she's awake. Or maybe guys, she's alive. That's what she said. That's what he said. He was like, guys, she's alive. And so then the next thing I know, they couldn't find my parents, and they didn't have our health insurance information on record. And so they just had to leave me laying. I was half on the mat, half off the mat, because they were too scared to move me, because they couldn't call. I wasn't like injured enough where they immediately had to call the ambulance. And they didn't have my health insurance record information on file. So they were trying to find my parents, and they couldn't find my parents anywhere. So they didn't want to move me because they were afraid if they moved me and something happened that they'd get sued. And I think they were already scared that they were going to get sued. So
Did they give you some Robitussin then?
they gave me nothing. They gave me somebody to hang out with and talk to me while I was in the middle of the friggin' school gymnasium, which was also in the lunchroom. Thankfully, it happened after lunch. But like, yeah, I was waiting there for like, it was probably like 45 minutes or an hour before somebody finally found one of my parents.
Chris Rock used to had that joke about, like, you know, in his growing up, his family was so poor they just use Robitussin for everything.
Right, I've seen that. Just giving some tussin.
And if the bottle runs out of Robitussin, you just put some water in it and shake it. And when I was 5 years old, I was in the attic with my mom and a neighbor. My mom was getting something from my neighbor, and I like fell down all the stairs and cracked my head on like every single stair going down.
Yeah.
And I was in the hospital. Yeah, I was in the hospital for like 4 or 5 days, like hooked up to IVs, and
Wow.
I think it explains a lot.
I mean, many things.
Yeah. I don't have one of those stories like from childhood that I was majorly. I'm lucky.
You've never crashed your head into the ground?
Well, I mean, I've had things like that happen, but never like to where I had to go to the hospital and stay for days or anything that drastic, or even broken. I haven't had any broken, knock on wood, any broken arms or legs or anything like that.
I had on like my 7th or 8th birthday, I had a couple of friends over, and like we were like goofing around in the middle of the night, and my dad, you know, he was a fireman, and he has this really nice metal sign from like the first firehouse in my hometown, but he had it redone, and I was like walking in the dark or running in the dark, smashed right into it and like gashed open my forehead, and I had to go get stitches on my birthday.
Wow. Well, it's funny because a
lot of head trauma I've had.
A lot of head trauma. It totally explains things.
All right. So what are big things that have changed for you during COVID in the last year? Like, do you shop for food differently? What have been your comfort meals? Like, I'm going to the food stuff.
I wear gloves when I shop for food.
What was that?
I wear latex gloves when I shop for food.
Ah, really? I have a friend of mine who delivers pizzas, and they've given them latex gloves to wear when they're doing deliveries. And so he's actually gotten generally into the habit of doing it now.
I haven't done that,
but I still do it.
Yeah.
I think for me, the first thing when you said that, like what came to my mind when you said what's changed, is probably I just was in the Y the other day I just went into the front desk for the first time since like February, trying to figure out what my membership status was and what I needed to do. And I have until February to rejoin, and I think I probably will, but that'll be a full year of like,
wow.
And I was going probably 3 times a week. So it's like, I mean, I got a gym in the garage, and I worked out a little bit today, but not anywhere near the level.
It's different. It's different when you get in the routine of going somewhere to do it, because you don't have to do the setup and the takedown in some cases. You know what I mean? Like, I have converted my front door basically into a sort of a gym, and again, I've got to do setup and takedown for it. Whereas if I go to Planet Fitness, which is, it's still a 5 to 7 minute drive from my house, but still I don't have to do the setup and the takedown. So it's like you just walk into the space, do the thing, and then go home. And I think that's a big difference for me.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, I would swim, which I haven't really swam. And it's like, that's frustrating. And so they're actually doing at the Y, they're doing swimming now. You can sign up for times. And I was kind of like, and I went over and I peeked in the pool, like, the door was open. They're trying to air it out as much as possible. And I was just like, I'm not really that into trying to swim yet. It seemed pretty crowded, honestly, because I think a lot of people are trying to get their there were, and probably at the new year it'll be even worse. Did you go to the Planet Fitness that's right down here on Market?
West Market, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. That's I live real close by there.
Nice.
Why don't you get one of those mirror things? Have you seen those crazy mirror?
I've seen them. I've seen several things that look really interesting, but that mirror thing is fascinating.
What mirror thing? I haven't seen this.
It's like it's a personal I mean, I'm assuming we're talking about the same thing. It's like a personal trainer, so you can sign up for various things to get, you can customize it to you. And then is it actually a mirror image of like an avatar of you?
But it's
like,
or you can also program it to be a personal trainer, and then it's like you're supposed to be mirroring things back to. They'll do an exercise and then you mirror it back, and it'll read it, you know, like a video game would read you. And yeah.
Huh.
And it'll tell you like, okay, you need to move this differently or that differently. Yep.
I'm surprised, Justin, that you're, you know, the Luddite with no technology would even raise that.
It looks neat.
It looks neat.
Let's see what else has changed. I don't know that. I mean, it's, you know, obviously I don't get to go to concerts anymore. That's been a drag.
Yeah. The live music has been a drag.
I have thought about, there's been a couple of times where I was tempted to go to the Blind Tiger because they're doing like the quarter capacity thing.
Yep.
But I haven't gone because it's like bands that are like, you know, okay, Insane Clown Posse was there recently. Right. I was like, I'm not an Insane Clown Posse, but I've always been fascinated by their fans, the Juggalos. But it wasn't something I was going to go to by myself during a pandemic. Like if I could have got somebody to go with me. And plus, like the Juggalos, you're guaranteed to get something at one of their concerts normally. So, pretty certain that I would get COVID if I went to that.
Yeah.
So that sucks. I'm waiting with bated breath for that to start. I'm hoping my summer tours reconvene, but at this point,
yeah. I have missed that a great deal. I did see some live music. I went to Odin, and there was some live music going on outside, and I kind of felt like, I was like, ooh, this feels dangerous, but I feel like I like it. And then I'm not going to lie, last night I did go to Vinyl Night because Press Parks was spinning for Lee Hathaway, who, if anybody knows Lee, like I want to give like a huge shout out and a toast to Lee Hathaway, who we lost her very unexpectedly on Sunday. Like you would recognize her if you saw her picture. She's kind of a staple of Walker and Elam. What was that? She works at Wahoo. She worked at Wahoo's. Yeah. Short hair, real super stylish, like incredibly approachable. One of those people. Yep. That's Lee.
She died? That was her?
Yeah.
From COVID? What?
So we can talk about details at another time, but like I just want to say Lee was one of those amazing and awesome people. And so there was a bit of a tribute for her last night. And so I did stop by and listen to that music. It was at the Flatiron. It was pretty great. So thank you, Press, for that. And Lee is just one of those spirits who everybody who knew her, I think, was made better by her. And so cheers to Lee.
Cheers.
Yeah, I never knew that was her name, but she used to occasionally be behind the bar at Wahoo's.
Yep.
And I'd always see her and I don't know, her boyfriend walking their dogs all the time.
Yep.
Real early in the morning. Huh. And she would always, after hours for all the bands that played at Wahoo's would always be at her house because I'd see them leaving at like 8 a.m. the next day.
Wow. You guys live in the hip neighborhood.
We do live in the hip neighborhood. It's the Lonely Park life.
I'm getting another one. Why not? This is my last one.
I've moved over to number 2, which is a peanut butter hazelnut caramel chocolate cake stout, because I got it as a joke. It's another one of those things where I got 2 beers and then I was like, I need a dessert beer. And so then I grabbed that one and I was like, here, this is funny. And it's all right. It's not great.
It's not good.
It's fine. It's sufficient.
I just had a chocolate stout the other day that I bought at Aldi. Actually, it was from like St. Louis, I think, or somewhere. It wasn't from here.
We had an Aldi.
Well, Aldi has cheap beer, and it was actually very cheap and very delicious. I mean, I have to go get some more of that.
There was I remember I had a peanut butter stout and this was somewhere I think in like season 2. And I remember, Justin, you made fun of me because I think part of the goal was to come up with like the strangest beer you could find at Best Way. I found that peanut butter stout, and it was really delicious. And so that's why I was kind of hoping this was going to be similar to that, and it's not.
I'm drinking Highland Mocha Stout right now. North
Because
Carolina.
it's cold outside. Yeah, it's getting chilly. Although it's gonna be nice tomorrow. The fact that you're in Colorado now makes me think about the next question I want to ask, which is what do you hope we still keep with us moving forward into hopefully a post-COVID world?
From the changes brought on by COVID?
Yes.
Like what was positive that I'd like to see retained?
Yes.
Wow.
Like I want to teach more online and hybrid classes and kind of normalize I know you don't like it, but it makes my life so much easier.
Somewhat.
It's like I said, I got the highest teaching evals in this one class, but I think it's only going to work for me if I do, like, I've either got to teach all of my classes face to face, or I've got to do all of them hybrid or online. Like it can't be some of them are face to face and some of them are online. It's one of those things where it's like I need the structure to be the same for all of the classes that I'm teaching.
I don't think I can go
because I can't switch gears that much between all of that. And I really think I like the hybrid stuff. Like I don't necessarily need to teach all of my classes completely online. However, I want to be the part of this that I'm getting to that I kind of want to normalize is the idea that we don't always have to be physically present in Greensboro in order to do our jobs at UNCG.
Yeah.
So that right now, like, yeah, the semester's done, but you're in Colorado. And did you finish up final exam week? You were probably in Colorado. And so
I took my grade November 24th. So
yeah. You took advantage of that semester is done before Thanksgiving.
Man,
no, that's great. That is smart.
Justin and I had a beer like wasn't that right before Thanksgiving or right after? Because you were done with your grading. I was like, what? I don't even have stuff in yet.
Yeah.
Like, what?
I'm a machine, man. I got to get that stuff done.
You are. I think about this actually, not that I think about you all of the time, but I think about you at the end of the semester every year when it comes to grading time, because I remember you telling a story about how like you eat awful food, live your life in sloth, and just do like 4 days of like power grading just to get it all done. And so I'm like, do I want to live life like Justin, or do I want to live life like a sane person?
Right.
And I usually opt for sanity. So
it's all relative.
Right.
For him, it's sanity.
But you're also
done, so that's that. So
I'm done. Right? I teach 3 classes this spring, so I had to do that creative juggling of spacing out when assignments will come in. Because some people don't do that. And like they'll like accidentally, oh crap, I got an exam and 2 papers due all within the same week, and they totally like fuck themselves.
I don't do that. I mean, I'm just kind of like, I'll suffer, whatever. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess if I teach 3, because I teach a 2-3 or a 3-2, and so I actually teach a 3-2 usually. So the fall is worse for that for me, usually. Yeah.
But I definitely want to normalize at least the ability to have both face-to-face and online. If you're gonna have a face-to-face, also have an online option. In terms of things like meetings, like I think our faculty meetings have been fine online. Things like that. There's a lot of that I definitely think it saves a lot of time for me in terms of trying to juggle being out in the community for meetings and data collection and other sorts of things, being on campus for classes, on campus for meetings. Like there's a lot of times I'm just running back and forth all of the time, and it's really helped that. So,
but at what cost?
No, I realize we've had this at what cost conversation before. That's why I think in the classes that I'm teaching, I think I want to do more hybrid stuff where there might be some online delivery of lectures and other materials so that we can spend our time face to face differently. That's kind of what I think I'm trying to get at, is that there are some things that I have figured out that at least in my the way that I teach things, that I can deliver it, some of it online, to free up the face-to-face time to do things differently.
I know what I would like to keep retained from the COVID
Okay.
era. People getting off the sidewalk when I'm walking the dog.
Yeah.
So
That's good.
That's funny. Wow. I don't know what I can add to that. I mean, the online conversation got me thinking about, it depends on what you mean by online, because I think we're all looking at screens too much.
I
And
agree
so
there.
if there's, you know, if you've got an async, I taught an async class, and that was the class that only like 3 students responded on the survey to.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, no, actually that's not true. That they more of them did in that class, because that class was larger, but it was also 7 weeks. So it's like a very quick run through of a lot of material. And so one of their complaints was like, I gave too much work. And it's like, well, it's 14 weeks worth of work, but it's in 7.
Yeah.
Like, which I warned you about at the beginning.
I think
So
some of the students might have been in that class.
oh yeah.
I shouldn't talk about that, but
Well, it might be any of our master's classes too, though.
right, also true.
Because,
also
but
true.
I don't know, what was the class? Do you know?
I don't know. I just know that one of our students took
Yeah.
a 7-week Peace and Conflict Studies class. So.
Yeah, that we have a lot of our classes that way. I'm not a big fan of it, and honestly, I don't think most students are either. But
I have started to think creatively about other ways to deliver sorts of things. I'm not going to get into the minutia of it, but I was just thinking about like ways that you might team up with other faculty to
so I got something
technically team teach some courses, but it's not 2 of you getting credit for one single course. It's you each get credit for your own 3-hour course. You just line it up in the schedule in a close enough way where you can do things together.
Well, so I'm glad you raised that, because I've been working with one of our former guests on this show, Jen Feather.
Hi, Jen.
English. She actually brought to our attention, a number of us worked on a proposal that is exactly trying to do that with Mac foundational courses, not just foundational, actually, any of the Mac competencies, which is our new general ed curriculum, to try to, I mean, so we put in a grant for this. Who knows if we'll get it? I mean, we put in actually a letter of intent. So they have to come back to us and tell us, yes, put the grant in. So we'll see if, and then who knows if we'll get the grant at that point too. So it's a longer term thing, but the idea is exactly to do kind of STEM and humanities work across discipline.
Yeah.
So you have like team teaching kind of opportunities. So a lot of the money for the grant would actually just pay somebody to buy out, so that like you could teach with somebody else, you know, in you could find somebody in HHS or in STEM kind of course. So we were even thinking like pre-professional degrees like kinesiology or public health or some of these, and connecting them with humanities faculty to co-teach a class. So we'll see if it, Andrew Hamilton really liked it too. He provided some feedback on it, you know, and I provided, you know, a few rounds of reading it through. So we'll see if it, where it goes. But I think, you know, that's the kind of thing we do, because the institution doesn't support that kind of shit, you know. It's like, I mean, as I was talking about the 3-2 load, I realized that this fall I taught 2, and that was I finally got a course release for my director of undergraduate studies. So that, like, I now teach a 2-2 actually, which is kind of nice.
Great, right?
And I just realized, like, oh damn, I've already gotten that benefit for this year, because I'm going to teach my regular 2 load in the spring, which is what I've taught pretty much every spring since I've been at UNCG. So
I need to find some way to get back to a 2-2.
Isn't that like the lifelong journey of a 3-2 professor, is to try to figure out a way to get back to a 2-2? All right. So I think this is my second to last question. 2020 has been so long. What's one thing that you forgot happened? Like, I was recently reminded that I broke my foot in March. I forgot completely that I broke my foot in March. And it was just like a hairline little crack that, you know, I was in a boot for 2 weeks and everything was fine. But all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I totally broke my foot in March. And I'd completely forgotten, because 2020 has been that long.
I'm trying to think. I can't remember much
Because
of
you
what
forgot it
happened.
happened. So
It's a pre-era. It's the pre-COVID era.
right.
January and February, and maybe even a little bit of March. Or like, remember those days?
Right.
And
Remember when we went out to lunch that one time? You're like, oh my gosh, yes. We used to eat in restaurants.
I mean, I stopped counting, but at one point in time, it was like 33 concerts that I'd already purchased tickets for or planned to go to that were canceled or postponed from March 12th on. And like now they got rescheduled, and now those rescheduled dates have been shuffled because COVID still isn't over. So that's not really like something I forgot that happened, but like every once in a while I'll get a notification. Oh, your, airborne toxic event show has been rescheduled for October 2021, or
that's
some of
funny.
the stuff that they rescheduled for March or April is getting recanceled again because they're like, yeah, we're not going to be out of this shit by then.
We're like, we thought it was going to happen, but
Yeah.
You know, I got sucked in at the beginning of the COVID thing to planning a conference, which turned into a 3-month online conference, like over 3 months, which was like, what we all agreed after we did that, like, what the fuck were we thinking? And I've gotten side railed into, or not, I won't say side rail. What's the word I'm looking for? I've agreed. I was like against my own better advice, probably.
the flow against your better judgment.
Do next year. So next year's conference, this is the Peace and Justice Studies Association, and next year we're in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, supposedly. I mean, like, we'll see what happens, whether it'll happen or not, but that's the plan. And so we are planning some kind of online portions of it, because we have to. We're just going to set that up so that we can transition if we have to.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I know what I forgot.
What'd you forget?
I forgot what I look like without facial hair.
Without a beard. I was looking at some pictures because I was working on the website when I was putting up the stuff for the election episode, and we have several pictures of you without a beard, and I kind of got a little shocked for a moment because I was like, oh my god, that's just it. It's weird.
That's funny, because I can't remember it either. I just always
it's like you've always had it.
Well, and he's in Colorado now. Like, I always remember you with Grizzly Adams. Like that's who you are.
If the beard fits, wear
Right.
it. Okay, so what are y'all gonna do over break? This is my last call question. If y'all have another, we'll do one more last call.
I got a last call question.
My last call question is, what are you doing over break?
Aside from being in Colorado?
Aside from being in Colorado.
You got all sorts of plans, man. You're just...
Well, I'll go back to Illinois. I'll stop at my folks' house for 6 nights around Christmas. And then I'll be back in Carolina for the last 23 days before classes start. All I'm really trying to do is just read for pleasure, because I haven't been able to...
I got 6 fiction books.
Oh, wow.
Awesome.
Most of my stuff is not fiction, although I am going to read this next book. I'm going to read after I finish the one I'm reading right now. Is called The Cold Millions. It's about the start of the International Workers of the World, the Wobblies, and free speech in like 1910s and 1920s.
Wow.
Jess Taylor is the author. I heard about something on NPR, but I'm looking forward to starting that after I finish this book. I'm reading right now. Both of you may have read one of his previous, Robert Putnam. Either read Bowling Alone?
Yeah. It's a big part of some of the social capital stuff that we teach in our community and communication class.
Okay.
I think I saw you read that when I was over there.
Breaking.
Sorry, you are breaking up.
Justin's breaking up.
He is breaking up a little bit.
This is the first time we've had technical difficulties on the show.
Yeah, I think that's definitely...
We've been really lucky so far.
Wait,
because that's 2020.
It's 2020.
Is that Mike?
I think so.
Wait, who's going slow? Is that my signal or yours?
I think it's you.
Me?
Yeah. Because Jeremy and I can hear each other fine.
We're having a conversation.
We are.
That's great. That is totally 20.
We lost him completely. There, he's back. Oh, now he's walking.
I'm going up the stairs because the modem is up here.
Yeah. Like,
Ah.
Yeah, I mean, they told me that you shouldn't stream anything here because it'll eat up all the bandwidth. But
But here we are.
here we are. I've been streaming all the time.
So you're reading a Robert Putnam book.
It's called The Upswing,
Okay.
and it's a macro history, big data, 125 years. Look at like from the early before the progressive era to now, to look at like the what he calls the I curve.
Ooh.
So individualism to communitarianism, back to individualism, and how we can get back to there.
Ooh.
It's really good. I mean, it's not like you know, I mean, it's definitely like an academic book, but it's
Right.
made for like the Gen Pop.
Yep.
It's really cool about how it weaves all of these threads of history together, and like all these great charts and graphs that, all right, here's all, this evidence, breaks it down by politics and culture and all this stuff, and then goes a little bit into race and a little bit into gender. And it's funny, Jeremy, actually, because I've been reading it, and then I read this paper that Jeremy asked me to review today, which is like they're clearly, this person's kind of trying to do something similar to this, but it's not working. And so in the back of my mind, I'm like, all right. But so, yeah, I'm just going to read a lot. And then I'm teaching a qualitative data analysis class for the first time in the spring. So I'm going to try to do all my reading for that class in that last 3 weeks, so I don't have to read during the semester.
Nice. Gotcha.
Nice.
That's
Yeah, I'm definitely, I got like 5 books as well. I'm definitely going to be doing some reading. Most of mine is nonfiction type of stuff. Right now I'm reading
You guys are still so smart in your reading choices. I'm like,
Oh,
no,
I mean, I have a couple.
sci-fi fantasy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm taking a break. Because like I'm actually probably going to put on my out of office reply that I'm only going to respond to emails related to these 3 things during these dates. But then between like December 23rd and January 3rd, I might not respond to anything.
I'm
And
feeling like that too.
I just need a break. Like this is like a 4-year coming sort of break, because I was thinking about this the other day that 4 years ago right now, I just found out that I had my research leave to get going to finish my book.
Research
And
leave.
so
What's
here we
that?
are 4 years later, just getting ready for it to come out. And like I finished all of the stuff. Like I don't have anything else I have to do. I've finished teaching all of my classes. All of my research projects are in a spot where I can like go on hold for 6 weeks. And I'm like, I'm going on hold for 6 weeks.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I don't have that luxury because January 1st, I start my co-editorship of a journal.
Ah,
So
I don't either, because I've got to read the rest of these articles you're talking about for my journal, but also just, I mean, I was laughing thinking like, research leave. Like, is there a thing called a research leave? Because I mean, I'm hopefully gonna get tenure by the summer,
right.
and like I don't see any research leave in sight, but I'm looking like I'd like that.
Well, you've got to apply for it, and ours is at the college level, but I think it just depends on what's going on in your academic.
HHS has a process,
So, yeah,
but I don't know.
So
I mean,
we have there is I call it research leave. They call it research assignment. We're just not supposed to call it sabbatical.
yeah.
you get a semester at full pay, right?
What was that?
Aren't you like guaranteed a semester at full pay?
1 semester at full pay, and then if you wanted to do a whole year at half pay, or if you want to come up with your other semester through grant funding, you could do that too.
But you have to have some sort of defined product by the end of that semester.
You have to have made progress towards something. Like they're going to understand. Like, for example, I was hoping that my book was going to be done at the end of my research leave. However, at the beginning of the research leave, when we were talking with University of California Press about publishing it, and the 2 editors who were the 2 editors who were editing that series for University of California Press, they didn't want us to approach it the way that we were approaching it. We were planning on having it be an edited volume where we wrote about half of it and we had contributions from other people who had worked on those projects, but they were going to really largely write their own chapters. And they really wanted it to be more of a first person perspective from us. And so that meant we had to write more. And so it kind of doubled what we had originally proposed, what my co-author Naisha and I had originally proposed that I used to get my research leave. And so at the end of it, I was like, y'all, I went into this thinking it was going to be one project, but it turned into something else. Was my department a little, maybe irritated that I don't have a book out yet? Maybe. Am I still within the exact same time frame as everybody else who has proposed a book with a research leave and then produced that book? Pretty much. So I'm not out of the ordinary with anything. At the same time, I did have to articulate at the end of my research leave that I didn't have the same products that I thought I was going to have. And so, but you do have to have some sort of, you have to be working on something, and it can't just be like, hey, I got 3 articles I want to publish. Like, it's got to be something of,
Oh, I got a book I want to publish. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
So if it's a book, if it's a book project, if it's a multiple series of articles, like if you are trying to get, you've been working on a big long project and you want to try to get like 8 or 10 things published out of this, then they might look at that differently. Yeah.
I think you're better off having written a lot of it yourself, because with the edited volume, you just do not know what you're going to get. And you're in the mode, which I don't know, maybe it's just my own weakness, but you're in the mode of trying to motivate other people
to finish
do the work that you need them to do.
Yeah. We ended up converting almost everybody who we were going to have write chapters. We converted almost all of them. There were only about 2 or 3 of them who we lost along the way, into contributors for those chapters, because we still kept the same ideas. It just ended up being that Naisha and I wrote the super majority of all of it. And so we still kept them on. And in some cases, they only wrote like 3 or 4 pages in a 25-page chapter. But still, even for those 3 or 4 pages, it was like motivating them to get something done. And
So did you credit them on those chapters? You have
those chapters, yeah.
Oh, cool.
So it basically, at the start of the chapter, it'll be like, chapter 8, Kitchen Connects GSO with Stephen Sills, or chapter 11, Renaissance Community Co-op with Casey Thomas and Eliza May. And
So you had some UNCG collaborators too.
We did. We had one. Stephen was one UNCG collaborator, and then we had another one from Mark Smith, who was the retired epidemiologist for the Guilford County Department of Public Health, is one. And then Donovan McKnight, who started Ethnosh, he's another one. And then
Casey Greensboro Uprising.
What was that?
Is Casey Greensboro Uprising?
She's with she's with Guilford for All.
Guilford for All.
Yep. And so Casey is with Guilford for All, and Eliza had done a lot of work with the Greensboro Mural Project and a variety of other things. They've done a lot of things. Yep.
Cool.
What's your final thought question?
Are you talking to me?
Yes, sir, Squirrely.
Yes, my final thought question was, what are you doing over break? So
I never really answered what I was going to do over the break, besides read. I am going to read, because I have a lot of that to do, both work-wise, but also just relaxing. But I also have, and I think I mentioned this last time, I have a kitchen project that's ongoing. And so I will be scraping a ceiling and painting a wall, and eventually refacing cabinets and repainting them. So like, I have a number of stages of this process, which I hope to get some of that done and out of the way over the winter break.
Just make the boys do it.
Because I want my kitchen to look nice.
I'm also trying to paint a mural in my hallway, so we'll see how that goes.
A mural of what?
It's a collage mural, and so it's got a lot of different pieces that are all put together. Like, the pugs are in it in various ways. There's a bit of a steampunk sort of feel to it, but not.
What is steampunk?
Cool.
Has a lot of gadgets and clockwork and other things like that kind of built into it.
Awesome. Well,
Yep.
no, my thought was just 2020 resolutions. 2021
2021
resolutions.
resolution.
Like, what are you thinking you're gonna plan? So we're post COVID, or at least we think we are. And what are you planning in 2021? What are your resolutions? Your New Year's resolutions? Should
I'm
I
not.
start, or do you guys
I'm
want
not
to
a
go?
New Year's resolution person.
I'm
All
not a
right.
New
Well,
Year's resolution person either, but I could get down with it. What's your post-COVID resolution?
post COVID resolution. All right, that's fair enough.
What are you
You
thinking?
go first. You go first, Drinker.
Yeah,
Well, one of the, I don't, I mean, I didn't think about it too much. I was curious to hear what others had to say, but I would say, I would say meditate is one thing.
yeah.
I need to spend more time just writing, but not writing for myself as opposed to writing for what I think I need to be writing, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and meditating and thinking, I just need to I need to slow down in some ways. Um, and then I guess I would say drink more, smile more. A Hamilton quote, drink more, smile more. I don't know. Other than that, I don't have grand, ambitious plans.
I
Um,
guess I'll build on that. Mine's not like assuming like COVID stuff is like wraps up in this spring summer. It won't be that early, but like my plan is to eventually change my writing and to writing fiction. I want to write novels. I've had these three or
hmm,
four ideas in my mind for going on close to 20 years that I finally feel I'm at a point where I can actually write one of them at least. Um, and so after assuming I get tenure, then the summer after that, my plan is to write one of those novels.
that's wild because I was just having this conversation with another colleague, and he was saying, "Yeah, you got to write a novel because nobody reads the shit you write anyway, right? We
Uh-huh.
read academic stuff." And he has a colleague. His name is Richard Jackson, and he's one of the top theorists about terrorism. And that's one of the things on my reading list. I have his He wrote a novel.
I think you talked about that last time.
Yeah, was I telling you about that? I haven't. It's in my stack of books to read, and I can't remember what it's called. American Terrorist or Confessions of a Terrorist. I think that's what it's called.
Uh,
And it's a book about terrorism, but basically he said he wrote it because he felt like nobody was reading all the shit he was writing, and he wants to convey, like, hey, I know something about
right, right,
the
right.
psychology of folks like this. Wow.
Interesting. Creative nonfiction, as some of us would call. I would in my post 2020 / post COVID resolution. So I mentioned earlier that like 4 years ago I started on a research leave, and now the book's coming out soon. In that first 6 months, when right after I found out I was on research leave, and then even a bit into the beginnings of the research leave, like I had somehow managed to figure out what a really good work life existence balance was for me. And I knew it was going to be kind of short lived because writing the book was not easy. I will definitely say that. Like, I did not adopt a lot of healthy lifestyles while I was doing that work, which is ironic because I was talking a lot about healthy eating.
Mm,
And,
right.
and so I think when I found out I'm going to be on research leave, it was like I had this break. And so it was like this moment where I was like, okay, I can breathe. I can start to adopt some of the writing and the work habits that I really want to do. And I really felt like I got it for about like 9 months. And then when I really got into like the deep analyzing of the cases and the deep writing of the book, like it thrust me back into some of like the bad, like I don't even want to call them bad habits, but the
I get
kind
it.
of overworking, the constantly feeling like the only thing I should be doing is producing. Like some of those feelings and habits, like those came back really, really easily. And I would like to move away from that. Like I would like to figure out again, like, how can I structure my time and structure the ways that I contribute to things in a way where I'm not working against myself? Like, there are so many times when I feel like, because I do have to run all over Greensboro to go to various different meetings and student engagements and things like that, that I'm not being very kind to myself. And so that's why I've kind of been liking some of the online teaching, is that I'm like, you know what, some of this allows me to be kinder to myself in the way that I structure my time, because I just spend so much time in my car getting to places.
Yeah.
And so I would, in my resolutions, like to restrike that balance, or I don't know if balance is the right metaphor, but at least restrike that pattern of how I have to live to be my best me.
That goes hand in hand with divestment of fossil fuels.
Right, with the divestment of fossil fuels. I also want to cook more deep dish pizza. I made deep dish pizza with all of blah. Let me try to say that again. I made deep dish pizza with all of my Thanksgiving leftovers, and it was rad. So, like Chicago style, it was great.
With Thanksgiving, like turkey and what else?
Turkey, and one of them was turkey and spinach and mushroom, and the other one was ham and mushroom. I didn't have a lot of Thanksgiving foods. I had some turkey and I had some pie, and that was it.
Ham.
And some ham.
That's funny.
Yep.
Not bad.
I like when you changed your background, by the way, Justin. I just had to say that with the Christmas trees behind you. It's so festive.
That is kind of fun and festive.
I think those are arrowheads.
We're just gonna pretend that they're Christmas trees for now.
I don't know. Well, we're here. We're at the end.
All right. Any other closing thoughts? You know, happy holidays /break/winter vacation to everybody who's out there listening. We hope you all take some time.
Happy Festivus. We should have our
Festivus
airing
for the
of
rest of us.
grievances. We have to have our airing of the grievances.
Our airing. This might have just been what it was, because 2020 was.
That's the whole episode. Is just the.
That's
airing
the whole
of
episode, is the airing of the grievances.
Oh, I thought you were going to air your grievances. I was ready.
I've got a lot of them.
I bet you do.
Maybe we'll do a bonus episode with just Justin sitting there with a list of grievances, reading
after tenure.
after tenure. Next year's year-end holiday wrap-up will feature Justin's airing of the grievances.
We could make that a regular thing. I could do mine this year, and you could do yours next year.
Good.
I mean, I don't know. I'd have to write down a few grievances and figure out what my grievances are, but I have a few.
That goes without saying. I have a few.
All right.
Something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to in 2021. Hopefully we will be back in 2021. We're going to slowly start, trying to get the new provost on the next episode, or maybe sometime in spring.
He's definitely down. I'm sure he'd be down to be on.
Awesome. And again, if any of our listeners out there are like, you need to interview this person, email Justin. But yeah, happy end of semester, happy holidays, whatever you celebrate, even if it's just winter break and reading some awesome fiction books. So yeah.
Amen.
All right. Peace out, y'all. See ya. Bye. Thanks for joining us for Liquid Philosophy. We hope you've enjoyed your time thinking and drinking with some local college professors about what we do and why it's important. We do take the topic of drinking very seriously, and we want to make sure that no one is out there drinking and driving. Stay safe, y'all. And if you feel like you're having a problem with alcohol or other drugs, please contact your campus health department or talk to your doctor. I should probably also mention that the views of Liquid Philosophy hosts and our guests do not necessarily reflect the views of the University of North Carolina at Greensboro or the UNC system. That should do it for the disclaimers. Until next time.